Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for running all the way amid all the traffic jams to be here for this morning session on, of course, a very important topic, China's economy. This is a joint session between the World Economic Forum annual meeting and CGTN, China Global Television Network. I'm Tian Wei, the moderator coming from CGTN. It's such a pleasure to see all of you here on the stage and off the stage with us. Our topic today, Chinese economy fully emerged, a question mark. But I really wonder, when we're sitting here today looking at all the changes of the world, how many of us still have that question mark in mind? Having said that though, let's take a look at the important topic we're going to handle today. I will say that within 1 minute because we have so many real insiders to share their opinions. Over the past 4 decades, China has managed to test and also move in a hybrid development model, which involves planning, innovation, integration. Now we are seeing a complex backdrop of geopolitics, geoeconomics, and certainly technological innovation as well. And China's economy is not like yesterday either. So what does that mean for the Chinese economy? Is it fully emerged? What does that mean for the rest of the world? Now we have a very strong panel, thanks to the forum, to be with us to share from their own perspective. Without further ado, let me introduce briefly every one of them. I will go with the seating order from my very near left. Mr. Dong Junfeng, Chairman of China UnionPay from China. Good to see you, sir. Sandy Xuran, Chief Executive Officer of JD.com from China. Thank you. Dr. Zhu Min, member of the Senior Expert Advisory Committee with China Center for International Economic Exchanges, known as CCIEE, and also a member of the Board of Trustees of the World Economic Forum. Thank you, Dr. Zhu, for being with us.
Thank you.
Eswar Prasad, a professor with Cornell University from the US. He's working on a latest book about how the world economy is doing, especially China's. Last but certainly not least, on the very far right, we have Carlson Tong, Chairman of the Hong Kong Exchange and Clearing, and also China from the community of chairpersons. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, when we begin today's conversation, it is important that we reflect back a little bit, but not too far away, just the year 2025, which has been marked globally by a tariff war by one largest economy of the world against the rest of the world. So how has China's economy survived this? And as a result of that, what have we learned about the characteristics of the Chinese economy so far? Dr. Zhu, go to you.
Oh, wow. It will take me 3 hours.
Well, you have only 1 minute, the most 1.5.
Okay. I think we should extend a little longer. I mean, past 5 years was not easy for China, I have to say that. COVID first, then real estate sector collapse, right? China sell apartments roughly 1.7 billion square meters in 2017, but today in half, 850 million. I mean, it's half of real estate is gone. It's absolutely a big challenge. Local financial platform also in big debts, and consumption was weak. So the 5 years was not easy, but China managed through with the macro policy, particularly on the real estate sector, without a systemic crisis. I think this is not easy. It's almost magic now. But move into today, we learned, the big lesson we learned is we need to change our growth model. We cannot continue on real estate sector, local financing, infrastructure investments, exports. We need to move to a new growth model. I think this is a big lesson. So this year and the next 5 years, China will move into a very much a new growth model. Emphasize a few things. Number one, technology. Technology emphasize, of course, artificial intelligence is one. U.S. China is competing on the frontier, fundamental studies. U.S. is still lead. But in application, China in some way lead already. because U.S. is GAR, China's AGR. So it's U.S. is GAR, generative artificial intelligence. China's U.S. is general, China's generative. So it's very different. China emphasizes, really on the application vertical, using in all the sectors. And because it's open source, it's a cheap Chinese model, right? So you will see the whole world welcome Chinese model. By the way, the most popular Chinese model in U.S. used is Alibaba's Q1. Cheap, small, adaptive. You can take the model back to your company, tailor to yourself, start put one. So I think that way. But new technology started with quantum computing. It moved very fast. With different, Americans still on the general purpose, but China is on the specific functions, like a D wave, if you know the quantum computer, it's move very fast. Currently, some models, specific functional models run, it's 100 million times faster than current any computer. Fusing energy is another big tech sectors. It go past, China has a Tomahawk equipment, from Russia around 50 years, but now move to the laser beam systems and very head with the US fusing. I think this is a big tech. Physics AR plus a robot. China accounts for 52% of global investments in robot industry, and have half of a global robot in China. So so tech is making sure. I know you have to give me another 20 seconds. I'll mention two things. The second issue is manufacturing, upgrading, move to the frontier. The third is domestic consumption. I think it's absolutely important. With trade war outside, you have to focus on domestic consumption. Service sector is a big issue. The fourth issue is China capital will go abroad. I think going abroad is a big thing in China. So for the whole world, I think the implication is really domestic market is going to open, and Chinese capital, particularly private sector capital, will go abroad. I think those are very big things.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhu. That's a beautiful opening. Thank you for setting the stage. But I do not want to escape from the topic of tariff, because we have Professor Prasad over there. After all, that's a topic that's with all of us still today. So, Professor Prasad, how has China managed the landscape last year with the hunting knife of tariff, shall we say, on the head? And what does that say about the characteristics of the Chinese economy? What does that mean for everybody sitting here today who are also thinking about the same question?
The point that Dr. Zhu made about the need for China to rebalance and restructure its economy, I think is really important, not just for China itself, but for the entire world. The tariff wall that the US has put up against China and many other countries, of course, has certainly led China to react by diversifying its exports. But as Dr. Zhu pointed out, one of the key aspects of growth over the last 4 to 5 years in the post-COVID period is the reliance on the old playbook of credit-financed investment growth, which has driven the economy. Now, investment is not necessarily a bad thing, but this is happening at a time when real estate investment and other aspects of private investment are not doing that well because of a lack of confidence in the economy. So this has largely been public investment, and not all of it is really profitable or very efficient. So it doesn't really address what Dr. Zhu pointed out the economy needs to be doing. So what China has done, because of the enormous imbalance building up in the domestic economy, is to diversify its exports, and it's been tremendously successful. Now, China, of course, is an exporting powerhouse, but the question is whether the world can really deal with the second largest economy in the world, needing it to pull it along rather than China, like after the global financial crisis, pulling the world along. So last year, as we know, China recorded a trade surplus of $1.2 trillion, and that is good for China at one level, and it shows how much China is able to power through with its exports. But it's a real problem, I think, both for China, because it shows how deep the structural imbalances are in China, but also it is a problem for the world economy. And I worry that between US tariffs and Chinese exports, we're going to see trade barriers rising up around the world. So I think it's very important that China fix this, not just for its own sake, but also for the sake of the rest of the world. Now, in terms of what needs to be done, I think the leadership understands what needs to be done. Dr. Zhu laid it out, and we've seen this in the documents. The real question is whether there is the urgency, the ability to push forward what is really needed in order to accomplish those objectives.
Thank you so much for giving another perspective. Having said that, though, we want to put a footnote here. The deficit and the surplus we're talking about, a lot of it is about goods.
Good surplus, that's correct.
Not services. As we know, China is one of the largest holder of a service trade deficit in the world. And it seemed that, according to the Vice Premier yesterday, China is enjoying it rather than the other way around. But having said that, though, who am I here to comment? We have so many experts here because they know the exact data. You talk about how China's economy needs to be restructured. So consumption is crucial. I want to go to Ran first before we go to the banking sector to know more how the Chinese consumers are doing. So Ran, tell me, how are the policymakers, the private sector, the businesses community, how do these factors work together in terms of setting a landscape to encourage Chinese domestic consumption, given your perspective? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Wei. I think Dr. Zhu just had a point that the consumption was weak last year. I would say from our observation that, yes, we were facing challenges in domestic consumption as well. So thanks to the stimulus policy at the beginning of last year, especially the consumption products trading program, so that we really saw a noticeable growth momentum in the first half year of 2025. However, the momentum slowed down in the second half year. And I would say, based on current data, we are still facing short-term challenges in the near future for domestic consumption. Having said that, we believe there are still lots of things we could do to further enhance consumption. In the areas like service consumption, rural markets, and sustainable or green products. And and also innovations really drive new consumption demands across all categories. Like Dr. Zhu just mentioned, that currently we see that products with AI capabilities are really generating new consumption trend, including AI robots, glasses, etc. And so we can see that from the policy perspective, things are moving towards the right direction. Consumption, boosting consumption is the top priority for both the 5-year plan and the Central Economic Work Conference. And we can also see that the trading program will continue in 2026 to support daily spending. And we would, if we may, suggest the policymakers to further consider a few areas. One is that further relaxing restrictions on buying homes and cars in China. And then secondly, to roll out additional stimulus policies in categories with big ripple effect, like baby and mom products, healthcare products, and service consumption. So for JD, we are really investing, because we are in this industry, so we work very hard to drive consumption demand. And we invested heavily in R&D resources last year to help launch the trade-in program to make sure that the consumers, they can have smooth shopping experience when enjoy the benefit of the trade-in policy. And also we invested I think nearly 30 billion RMB in the rural market to really expand logistics infrastructure in towns and villages, so that the users there can enjoy faster and more reliable delivery services. And we also invested in promotion, marketing, and also enhanced customer services for users in the lower tier markets. And finally, we have a pretty large user base, so we work with the brands, manufacturers to develop the C2M products so that they can easily catch or quickly catch the emerging trends of consumption.
Right. I do not want to do any promotion for any company, but your case study is very important. So it's very important for our audience to understand what kinds of user base you are talking about. What is the number? How large is this? So that everybody has a picture of what they can embrace, please.
Yeah, so by Q4...
Just one sentence or two, please.
Yeah, Q4 2025, our annual active customer base was 700 million.
Okay, got it. All right, go to you, Mr. Dong. From the payment perspective, Ran got it from one company's perspective, but you got the massive number. 您这儿的数据最全啊。
But you have all the data.
Taking place in terms of the trends, Chinese domestic consumption. How is the policy and the business community really shaping the overall picture? What about this day-to-day massaging and negotiation among the different factors of the Chinese economy that we are seeing today? 有请.
Okay.
So UnionPay, we're also a clearing institution. Yes, you mentioned that we have a lot of data. Yes, indeed. So we have more than 1 billion transactions per day and 1 trillion RMB in terms of volume. So you can see we are kind of like a barometer of the consumption in China. The Chinese government has been balancing consumption and exporting. Consumption contributes 53% of the GDP. So from our observation, we see several trends. First of all, in the past, we used to buy goods. So we have surpluses in terms of goods. And now, people are buying purely goods. And it has been a shift to buying services. So we see people, the Generation Z, they're no longer buying luxury brands. They want some more customized experience. They like more niche brands. So that's why some Chinese companies, Chinese brands, they use AI to extract the market insight, market intelligence, to provide customized products, customized services. And as we mentioned, everything has to be fast. There's another trend. So consumption in big cities are relatively mature. The consumption pattern has been matured, whereas middle-sized or smaller-sized cities. From our data, we can see that growth actually comes from these rural areas, smaller cities. We thought that luxury consumption happens only in big cities. Actually, it's not really the case. In rural areas, there are also this offering of high-end brands and high-end services. So from these trends, we can see that China is rebalancing at this moment. Policies from the government and the regulation authority, they are promoting this shift. So we're based in Shanghai. The Shanghai government, they are very, they really try to promote consumption in all areas, in healthcare, in education, not only for locals, but also for foreigners, in which UnionPay, we offer a lot of data for insight. So this is only an exemption in Shanghai. In other cities, they have their way of promoting domestic consumption.
Market reading, the signs coming from China's domestic consumption and this apparent transformation we're talking about.
Thank you for your question. If I may share with you an overview of the capital market in Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong connect China New Growth Agent with global capital. And by channeling the investment into high-tech manufacturing, into green energy transition and emerging market, and also connect Chinese mainland investors into the global capital market through Hong Kong. Now, to give you some indication, there's just under 2,400 companies listed on Hong Kong Stock Exchange. About 65% of them are Chinese enterprises, and they account for between 70 to 80% of the market cap of all the companies listed on Hong Kong Stock Exchange, which is about $6 trillion. So you can see, in fact, Chinese companies play a very major part on the Hong Kong stock market. And also through the Connect scheme, which was established 10 years ago, it enables overseas investors to invest through Hong Kong into the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock market. They call it the A shares. And also enable Chinese mainland investors through Hong Kong to invest in global stocks through ETF. You can global stocks. So Hong Kong connect China, Chinese mainland with the rest of the world. That's very important. Now, 18 months ago, if you remember reading newspaper, they say China and Hong Kong is uninvestable, if you remember. Now, if you look back in 2025, it was transformational. A year ago when I was here, I couldn't believe that market would experience. Give you some example. Hong Kong stock market is ranked number 1 in IPO fundraising. We raised $36 billion, number 1 in the world. We listed 119 companies. 2/3 of them are Chinese new economy companies in biotech, pharmaceutical, high-tech. So all the growth engine that China under 55-year plan wants the country and also companies to specialize in. And in terms of turnover, every stage round is very important because you need turnover to stimulate the market, right? Without turnover, it doesn't work. And the turnover is $33 billion, and that is double what it was 2024. Now, in fact, now, if you look into 2026, we're at present handling over 350 IPO listings, record high. In January alone, we received 49 listing applications. I mean, this is amazing. And so we talk about the tariff. You thought, wow, how has it affected Hong Kong? But in fact, I think the tariff, geopolitics, the volatility, uncertainty, actually drives global investors to diversify the investment portfolio into gold and also in the other parts of the world, in Asia, and also, of course, Hong Kong and China. So in fact, Hong Kong benefited from this volatility, and it's been the stock market reflected it.
Okay, so it seems that Professor Prasad, every one of them are sharing good news. Is that the real picture of the Chinese economy?
The question is what is happening on the surface and what is happening beneath the surface. On the surface, certainly, the fact that you saw 5% growth last year and you could register 5% growth this year is very good. The question is whether this is coming at the cost of deepening the structural imbalances in the economy, the ones that Dr. Zhu referred to, and whether the structural problems that could impede long-term growth, certainly demographics is going to be downshifter, but also you need the financial markets to be working better. You need not just macroeconomic stimulus, but you need private sector confidence, which is really important for both private investment as well as household consumption. So all of those indicators are not doing that great. So on the surface, great, but I think a lot needs to be fixed.
Well, interesting. So let's go into some of the questions once again you just raised. So one of the things is whether China's growth will be sustainable. It will be sustainable based on what? If you look at the earlier outline, I think, at the end of 2025, when China put forward the 15th five-year plan, which is likely to be further discussed for the year 2026 and implemented. AI Plus, as Dr. Zhu already mentioned, is one of the driving force. Now, many people characterize the U.S. approach for AI is so-called reaching for the stars with AGI. China is more AI plus. So on that, whether that could be a growth engine, a new momentum for sustainable growth, I want to come to you, Mr. Dong. How do you see AI in your sector?
Okay.
Is that AI plus really likely not going to be superficial? but rather integrate it and bring new growth for real, please.
其实刚才朱
So Professor Drew mentioned earlier that the AI sector is very dynamic in China. But on the promenade, we do see a lot of AI advertisements in Davos. So UnionPay is a payment network, a global network. We've been looking into the AI application in our service. So we work with a clearing institution, we work with merchants. So in our ecosystem, everybody is looking into AI's application. So the major internet companies, they create their large language models. And on top of that, so we also create our model, our vertical model. We invested largely in these vertical models. We work with research institutions, with universities to feed in transaction data, and also to understand who are our clients. And we feed into this vertical model, and then the model provide us some insight. And the insight can help us make better offerings. AI is also very good at communication. So in our UnionPay app, we have a new app called Ni Hao, hello. So this is for foreigners visiting China. They can use their own mother tongue in French and English, and they can use our app. No matter what they're doing, they're taking a bus, they're shopping in supermarkets. This app, they can provide different services for foreigners. Another point I would like to mention is harmonization. So we provide AI service for a chatbot for customers. So maybe in the future, it's our robot buying things from JD. So we have to make sure that regulation is very clear. And also has to know that whether or not the agent really represents me. And we have to take care of regulations, how to regulate these new technologies, these new developments. It is an ethical issue. It is also a harmonization of different standards globally.
Is testing about the AI governance first domestically and how it can work with the rest of the world. Since you are already mentioned Ran's name and her services, so let me go to Ran before I go to the other speakers. So a platform like yours, with the number you have already mentioned to our audience, what does that mean, AI Plus, to you? How you can also take advantage of that, but at the same time be able to feed back what is needed, both policy-wise, investment-wise, and also your interaction with your consumers, please.
Yeah, so maybe let me elaborate from two aspects. One is on the consumption related to AI products, and second is on the application in our internal workflow. So on the consumption side, really 2025 was a breakout year for AI products. So I can share some very interesting data on our platform. On the sales side, for any products with a keyword in their product name or product description of smart, so we saw the sales doubled in 2025 compared to the same period last year. And also for the products with real AI capabilities like robots and glasses, their sales grew by 3 and 10 times respectively. However, really the sales of robots were limited by supply, otherwise the growth will be even stronger. And the search data was even more dramatic. So we saw search volume for all AI related products skyrocket by 100 times in 2025. And also we did a customer survey related to their interest in AI products. Nearly 50% of the customer told us that AI is a must-have function. So all these tell us that there is a clear consumption trend for AI-related products. And AI function was no longer a nice-to-have feature. It's a must-have core product value to drive consumption and growth in the retail industry. So with this trend, we were working closely with our business partners to co-develop products that meet the consumers' demands. So recently, we just launched our private label AI toy backed by large language models. And also, we work very closely with home appliance and electronic products manufacturers, to enable the AI features. So this is on the consumption side. And
just a footnote, as people know, China is the largest market in the world for home appliance, for mobile phones, and for cars.
Right.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you for the comment.
Yeah.
And then on the application side, and I heard that everyone in the forum these 2 days were talking about AI applications, so I wouldn't elaborate in too much details. But we are training our own model, and we are utilizing all kinds of agents to help us generate additional sales. For example, the AI shopping agents, and we are testing our AI shopping app, an independent app from our main app, and also using the digital human live streaming. Maybe next year we could, all use digital for the panel discussion. And then
I want it to be in person, please. Putting jokes aside, please. Conclusion?
So then on the operation efficiency side, AI agents is really everywhere nowadays, coding, customer services, marketing, advertising. So it's developing so fast, it's actually changing every day.
You can see Chinese entrepreneurs, when it comes to AI plus, you just cannot stop.
So
Ran, I will have to stop you right here and go to Carlson. Carlson, because Carlson, you can tell us, what are the investors, and I mean, when we talk about AI, there's, of course, talks about overheating and this and that, bubble and early stage or not. But on the other hand, the mood of the investors is for real.
Yeah.
So not only AI, but also other innovations such as clean energy and some of the areas Dr. Zhu also mentioned about the new innovation. Do you see investors' enthusiasm is durable, or it is only quick money coming in, coming out?
Yes. Now, in fact, it's interesting. The innovation in clean energy and AI, especially in AI integration, is attracting a lot of interest in the capital market. Obviously, there's increased funding from private equity, venture capital into AI integration and clean energy businesses. And also on the IPO platform, we're seeing a lot of AI and clean energy coming to list. In fact, for example, for this year, we listed 2 very major large language model companies from China. One is Minimax, that one is Jipu. It's very, very successful IPO. But I think we do need to be careful in distinguishing long-term sustainability to immediate popularity and trend and fashion. I think because you need the market to validate it, so you need to watch long-term. Do they generate revenue? I mean, that's very important. And also, do they have patents, for example? Can they get patents? Is that technical longevity? And how about the financial performance? Are they generating revenue, profit?
Right.
Have they got long-term contracts? I think we've got to watch all this to distinguish between the real coin, the real ones, and those who are just catching the fashion, because otherwise you can see the market chasing AI. But you do need to, for those investors who can separate between the 2 types, will be the one that will benefit in the future.
There are worries that the world will be divided into separate systems.
Yeah.
We are already seeing emergence of that. Do you see investors are also divided in their choices, or they're rather having a full portfolio of all the exposures?
I mean, I've been
Very
listening,
briefly from you, and then we go to the
I've
others.
been listening to various AI speakers the last couple of days. Very, very interesting. And I think it is about the sovereignty of AI, the large language model. I mean, do you have a universal large language model incorporating data from all over the world? Or I'm getting feeling that, you know, even the European Union, they should have their own AI, they should have their own large language model. So I think there could be some separation that different countries might create their own large language model.
Yeah.
I think that could be the future trend. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it is still early days to decide what is the long-term future of AI.
We only have very limited minutes for such a big topic today. So, Dr. Zhu, I want to come back to you about China and the global economy. The complexity of geopolitics and geoeconomics, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to explain here. I mean, you are dealing with on a minute basis. But Dr. Zhu, how is China calmly observing what is going on every day and carefully chooses its own approach with others as we speak?
Well, I just mentioned when I opened the talk, I think China realized, I mean, you cannot depend on real estate exports and credit increases, Eswar mentions. You have to move to your own solid foot. That's a domestic market. So everything's focused on domestic market, technology, manufacturing, consumption, and all focus on domestic market. I think this is the most important thing. China is very serious on consumption. Many people mention on that because we have no choice, right? I mean, given the very volatile external international environment, so you got to boost the domestic consumption, make sure your growth basis on your own foot. So China this year made this very clear. The policies say the consumption growth was stronger than GDP growth. That's a KPI. You consume more, need money. So income growth will be higher than GDP growth. That's the KPI. Budget will spend more portion of money to support the consumption and the social program, including education, healthcare, pension, all those things, and including subsidy on consumption, 15% on your purchase of durable goods.
Yeah.
So this is a very seriously move into domestic consumption within 1 foot. The technology is the second foot, as I mentioned, everybody mentioned that China is moving very, very fast. Not only AR, just as a quantum computing, nuclear fusion, and physics AR, that's the future. And the third leg is further improve the manufacturing and then combine them with artificial intelligence technology. So Chinese manufacturing in the past 45 years, the first 20 years, made in China is cheap. The second 20 years made China cheap and good. So next 20 years is make China cheap, good, and high tech.
Yeah, but that is only one aspect of the answer. I know, Dr. Zhu, you know the whole overall comprehensive answer, but let me move to Carlson on an important aspect. Everybody is thinking about it right now, even though some of them may not say it. For example, about currency. The financial structure since World War II has a lot to do with how currency is being used. How do you see the internationalization of RMB, looking at China's track record and also what China has learned over the past few years about economic and global integration? How is that currency swap working so far in terms of proportion? What does that mean for the major currency in the world?
Yes, that's very interesting.
You have 1.5 minutes, my friend.
It's a very interesting question. I mean, clearly you're seeing that a slowly increasing trend of using renminbi in, for example, trade finance. I mean, the trade finance payment, I think, is number 3 in the world, right? And then the currency payment is number 4 in the world. So clearly, with China opening up its trade system network, and also foreign investment, there will be increasing demand for renminbi, there's no doubt. But you do need to have a strong infrastructure behind it. Building up a liquidity pool, for example, increasing more a swap between central banks. I mean, all those need to be in place. But one, I think, interesting area which I think could fasten the pace of renminbi internationalization is the use of the central bank digital currency. I think that is something which you can see is having a wider application because it's fast, it's cheap, and it can be used for international settlements. So I think this is one area where you can see growth prospect. But I do feel that renminbi internationalization is here to stay, is real, but it will take time. You need a strong infrastructure, you need to build up the liquidity ecosystem. It's not as straightforward as we might imagine.
Right. I can tell Professor Prasad cannot wait because you wrote a book about currency. And lately, he is also having a new book called The Doom Loop, how the world is looking at the economic order and related questions. So Professor Prasad, you want to briefly respond? 1 minute if you can, sir.
It's a time of tremendous opportunity, I think, for the Chinese economy and for the Chinese currency. There is a desperate desire in the rest of the world outside the US to diversify away from the dollar. China is becoming and has become a major power both in terms of GDP and in terms of global trade. So it would be logical and natural that the renminbi plays a bigger role in international finance and as a reserve currency. But China needs to do certain things. You spoke about the infrastructure. There is the technical infrastructure of currency trading, but also the regulatory infrastructure that needs to inspire the trust of foreign investors. But in addition, there are some key attributes that the reserve currency needs to satisfy: the fact that the value of the currency is largely determined by the markets rather than controlled by the central bank, and that you have a much more open capital account so that capital can both come in and come out relatively freely. And there have been a number of measures through the Connect schemes and so on to open up the Chinese economy. But the question is whether the belief of both domestic and foreign investors that these are durable measures so that the Chinese economy will remain open in terms of the capital account, that's the key issue. So I think it can happen, but it will take some work in terms of policies.
Go to you, Mr. Dong, on that too. I mean, how do you see, since you are working in the payment industry, that's so much related, how do you see China is looking at this role more integrated with the rest of the world? It is not, China become part of the world. Now we are part of the world. It's about what is the next stage and what is the end goal here? Mr. Dong.
确实是。
So we see all the tensions around the world, all the conflicts around the world. We see a very fragmented picture right now. From a payment perspective, buying and paying is a very natural interaction between humans. For the last few years, we've been applying international standards in Union Pay. So now we have interoperationality with other digital wallets in other countries, more than in 50 markets. So this is a parallel system to our Union Pay system. So this is what we're doing when it comes to internationalization. So this is our effort in this front.
And I want to go to the last two speakers who haven't spoke. What do you think, this general question, China with the world when it comes to integration, innovation, and further growth? 冉，一两句话吧，好吗？
Yeah, so from our perspective, we're really building a global supply chain that could, facilitate transactions both ways. So not just one way. So we do have some program to introduce the high quality global brands products to the Chinese consumers. So that we can create value for the entire industry society.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Zhu, last but not least.
I think for the whole world, China will open domestic market and bring in more service, particularly service import. I think is will be very important. Chinese capital will go abroad, particularly private capital. I think it will be beneficiary for the whole world as well. And China will export more artificial intelligence, and along with all the countries need, particularly SMEs and all those things. So I think those things China can do with the world.
Thank you very much. We have only 17 seconds, but I do want to ask our organizer, is it permitted that we have 2 more minutes so that, no, okay, got it. See, we follow the rule of law. Okay, all right then. So I want to thank so much the panelists sitting on the stage with us. I mean, all of you have rich resources to share with all of us, and you try to be concise and precise. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And all of you, thank you.
Yes.
Thank
See
you
you
very
around.
much.
Yes.